My name is Clara Evans, and I thought I had the perfect marriage, until my husband told his wealthy sister I was just a regular office worker to make things easier. So I decided to play along. I dressed down, acted small, and let her believe every word until the perfect moment came to show her who I really was. That night, her arrogance shattered, and her silence said everything. Sometimes revenge isn't loud. It's the power of truth revealed at the right time. Where are you watching from? Don't forget to subscribe for more stories where karma speaks louder than words. At 28, I was the director of strategic growth at a mid-sized tech firm in Austin, Texas, a position I'd earned through long nights, calculated risks, and the quiet kind of determination that doesn't need to announce itself. My salary was comfortable, far more than my husband's, but that had never mattered to me. I didn't marry Ethan, a software engineer at a local startup, for money or for what people might call ambition. I married him because our lives fit together in small, perfect ways. Saturday morning pancakes, our shared playlists during late-night drives, whispered jokes over coffee when the rest of the world felt far away. That was what happiness looked like to me. That was enough. Which is why the conversation that changed everything felt so absurdly small at first. It was a mild Thursday evening, the kind where the Austin skyline glows gold before sunset, when Ethan leaned against the kitchen island, twisting his wedding ring around his finger, a nervous habit that always came before bad news. "Clara," he said, not meeting my eyes, "my sister's coming." I looked up from the sink, the dish rag still in my hand. "Your sister?" "Yeah, Camila. She's flying in from Istanbul. It's been years." His voice wavered. "She'll be here this weekend." I set the towel down slowly, studying his face. I'd heard plenty about Camila over the years, the older sister who married rich, moved halfway across the world, and somehow made every family conversation revolve around her. Ethan always spoke about her with that strange mix of admiration and caution, as if she were both a blessing and a bomb. "Well," I said finally, keeping my tone neutral, "it'll be nice to meet her at last." But the way Ethan hesitated told me there was more. He rubbed the back of his neck, avoiding my gaze. "I might have simplified a few details when I told her about you." "Simplified?" I repeated, raising an eyebrow. "What does that mean?" He laughed nervously. "I told her you work in an office." I tilted my head. "I do work in an office." "Yeah, but I didn't mention the whole director thing, or the salary, or, everything." He gave an awkward shrug. "Camila can be intense about these things. I just thought it would be easier." Easier. The word hit harder than he probably meant it to. Easier than telling his sister his wife made more money than he did. Easier than admitting that the woman she was about to meet didn't fit neatly into her hierarchy of success. I looked at him, forcing a small, polite smile. "Easier," I echoed. "Right." He stepped closer quickly. "Clara, it's not that I'm ashamed." "Of course not," I interrupted gently. "It's just for the weekend." He exhaled in relief, clearly thinking I'd let it go. "Exactly. She's staying with Mom, and we're going over for dinner on Saturday. I just want things to be peaceful." "Peaceful," I murmured almost to myself. "Sure." Later that night, after Ethan had fallen asleep, I sat by the window watching the city lights flicker. The hum of the traffic below mixed with my own quiet thoughts. I wasn't angry, not yet, but disappointment hummed beneath my skin. I had worked too hard, built too much to be hidden behind the word easier. I didn't expect him to brag, but I certainly didn't expect him to erase me either. Still, as the night deepened, something shifted in me. The sting turned into something else. Curiosity, maybe even mischief. If Camila expected someone ordinary, someone she could easily look down on, then perhaps I should let her have exactly that. The next morning, I woke with a strange calmness. Over coffee, Ethan talked about logistics, what time to leave, what bottle of wine to bring, and I nodded, smiling faintly. But in my mind, I was already planning my own experiment. If Ethan wanted me to be a regular office worker, then I'd become the most ordinary office worker she'd ever seen. I'd play the part so perfectly it would make her choke on her own assumptions. After Ethan left for work, I stood in front of my closet, scanning the rows of tailored blazers, silk blouses, and neatly polished heels. The armor I wore every day as a woman who led strategy meetings and negotiated million-dollar contracts. Then I reached past them and pulled out what hadn't seen daylight in years, a pair of worn jeans, a faded t-shirt from a local market, and scuffed white sneakers. They smelled faintly of old memories. Perfect. I dug through a storage box until I found an ancient canvas tote from college, its straps frayed to the point of tearing. When I slung it over my shoulder, it looked ridiculous. Exactly the kind of ridiculous I wanted. In the bathroom mirror, I wiped off my usual makeup, leaving only a whisper of tinted moisturizer. My hair, normally styled into smooth, confident waves, I gathered into a loose, uneven ponytail. When I finally stepped back, the reflection staring at me looked like a woman fresh off a long retail shift, not a corporate director. I smiled. Perfect, I whispered to myself. That evening when Ethan came home and saw me, he froze. Clara, what on earth are you wearing? I turned from the mirror, pretending confusion. Just something casual. He blinked. You look like… He caught himself mid-sentence. Like what? I teased. Like someone who works in an office? Clara, he groaned, rubbing his temples. I didn't mean for you to go that far. I tilted my head, letting an innocent smile play at the corners of my mouth. Why not? You told her I was ordinary. I just thought I'd help sell the story. He sighed, exasperated but too nervous to argue. Please don't make this weird. It's just dinner. What's the worst that could happen? I said, slinging the canvas tote over my shoulder. By the time we got into the car that Saturday evening, Ethan's anxiety was practically radiating off him. As he drove, his hands gripped the steering wheel tighter than usual. Camila isn't a bad person, he said for the third time. She's just particular. She had opinions about how people live their lives? Ah, I said, watching the sunset melt into the skyline. So she's a self-appointed expert on everyone else. He shot me a look but said nothing. I smiled faintly. Relax, Ethan. It'll be fine. The closer we got to his mother's neighborhood, the calmer I felt. The streets grew quieter, lined with sleek homes and manicured lawns. When we pulled into the driveway of a modern condominium building, Ethan reached over and squeezed my hand. Just be yourself, he said softly, though he didn't seem to know which self he meant. Before he could knock twice, the door swung open. Camila Demier stood framed in the doorway like she'd stepped off the cover of a luxury magazine. Tall, composed, every detail immaculate. Her emerald green silk dress shimmered under the hallway lights, and a diamond bracelet winked at her wrist. Even her smile looked expensive. Sorry, Clara, right? She said, her tone warm but rehearsed. That's me, I chirped, pitching my voice just a little too high. It's so lovely to meet you. Ethan's, told me so much about you. Her smile tightened slightly. Has he now? When she offered her hand, I took it with both of mine, pumping it enthusiastically. Wow, your skin is so soft. Do you use one of those fancy European creams? For the first time, Camila faltered. Then she laughed lightly. Well, yes, I suppose I do. I stepped inside and immediately gasped. Oh my gosh, this place is gorgeous. And it was an art gallery masquerading as an apartment. Venetian glass, gold-framed paintings, and rugs that probably cost more than my car. It's like a museum in here, I said, eyes wide. I'm afraid to touch anything. Camila preened under the attention. Most of this is from our travels, she said. That vase is Venetian glass, and that painting is by a contemporary artist from Istanbul. My husband and I adore collecting rare pieces. Oh, how romantic, I said, clasping my hands. Ethan and I met on a city bus. I dropped a bag of potatoes on his lap. The silence that followed was delicious. Ethan coughed, Camila blinked, and I smiled sweetly. Well, Camila said finally, regaining her composure, I suppose love finds us in all sorts of ways. It really does, I said brightly. Though I think he forgave me faster than the potatoes did. Ethan nearly choked on his laugh. Camilla's smile turned brittle. Camila motioned for us to sit, her every move smooth and deliberate, as though she were performing for an invisible audience. The living room was spotless, all cream tones and glass surfaces that screamed curated perfection. She poured wine into crystal glasses, her diamond bracelet catching the light like a small sun. So, she said, crossing one elegant leg over the other, Ethan tells me you work in an office, Clara. I nodded eagerly, my hands folded in my lap, eyes wide with faux innocence. Oh yes, just a regular office job. I answer phones, make copies, sometimes grab coffee for people. Nothing too fancy. Camilla's smile widened, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. Ah, I see. That must be nice. Simple work, steady hours. I do miss that sometimes. In Istanbul, things can get so... She paused, waving a manicured hand. Complex. I nodded again, perfectly playing the eager listener. I bet. I can't imagine living somewhere so... sophisticated. I'm lucky if I can find parking downtown. Ethan cleared his throat. Clara, maybe you'd like to try the appetizer? He looked like he wanted to sink into the couch. But I wasn't finished. I leaned forward slightly, as though genuinely curious. So, Camila, what do you do for work? Or do you mostly help your husband with his hotels? The question was innocent enough, but something about it made her sit up straighter. Oh, I do far more than that, she said smoothly. Kamal and I are partners in every sense. I handle the design aspects, branding, guest experience. Our latest resort in Bodrum is a $5 million project. $5 million, I echoed in awe, widening my eyes just a little too much. Wow, that's, a lot of zeros. She chuckled softly, clearly enjoying the attention. Yes, well, it takes ambition, strategy, and sacrifice to build a life like ours. Sacrifice, I repeated, tilting my head as though trying to understand. Like, skipping lunch kind of sacrifice, or... Her expression flickered for the briefest second. I mean sacrifice of time, of personal comfort. When you're committed to success, you work hard. There's no balance without dedication. Oh, that makes sense, I said sweetly. I usually log out right at 5, but maybe I should stay late sometimes. Maybe one day I'll own a hotel too. Ethan coughed into his napkin, muttering, Clara, under his breath. Camilla's lips curved in a pitying smile. Well, dear, it's not for everyone. Some people simply prefer stability, comfort. I clasped my hands together, pretending to think deeply. Oh yes, that's me. Stable and comfortable. My biggest adventure this month was figuring out how to use the new coffee machine. The look on her face was priceless, a perfect blend of condescension and disbelief. She leaned back, sipping her wine as if to mask her amusement. Nothing wrong with small goals, I suppose. Thank you, I said brightly. I've always believed that if you're happy, you're winning, right? Her smile faltered, but she quickly recovered. Of course. Though I've always thought true happiness comes from achievement, from seeing tangible results. You can't just exist, you know? Oh, absolutely, I agreed, pretending to take her words to heart. Existing is exhausting. Ethan's mother, Patricia, entered from the kitchen at that moment, balancing a tray of hors d'oeuvres. Dinner's almost ready, she said warmly. Camila, could you help me with the wine glasses? Camila rose, excusing herself with a gracious nod, leaving Ethan and me alone for a brief moment. He leaned closer immediately. Clara, please, I'm begging you, just tone it down a little. I raised an eyebrow, feigning innocence. Tone what down? He groaned softly. You know exactly what. He glanced toward the kitchen. You're mocking her. I'm not mocking anyone, I said, keeping my voice calm. I'm just being the person you told her I was. He ran a hand through his hair. You're enjoying this way too much. Maybe, I said lightly, but can you blame me? She's practically a one-woman TED Talk on elitism. Ethan's reply was cut off as Camila swept back in, smiling again, every movement rehearsed to perfection. Now, she said, reclaiming her seat, where were we? Oh yes, work and fulfillment. Tell me, Clara, do you ever feel restless, like you should be doing more? I pretended to think, twirling a strand of my hair. I mean, sometimes I forget to defrost chicken before dinner, so that's stressful. But beyond that, not really. The silence that followed was deliciously awkward. I watched her expression flicker again, confusion, disbelief, mild horror. Then she laughed, brittle but controlled. You're quite amusing, Clara. Thanks, I said cheerfully. Ryan, oh, sorry, Ethan, always says I have a talent for saying the wrong thing at the right time. Her jaw tightened for just a second. Well, humor can be useful, she said smoothly, especially when you don't have much else to rely on. I tilted my head, still smiling, but my eyes didn't move from hers. You mean like money? Or charm? The tension crackled for a moment before she broke it with a laugh that didn't quite sound real. You're funny, she said again, this time through gritted teeth. Thank you, I said sweetly, taking another sip of wine. Dinner was served and conversation shifted to travel, Camilla's favorite subject, apparently. She spoke about Europe, about exclusive dinners in Milan, about summers in Antalya, each story dripping with self-satisfaction. Of course, not everyone understands the value of global exposure, she said, cutting her steak delicately. It broadens your mind. It's what separates those who live from those who simply exist. I smiled warmly. Oh, absolutely. I went to a conference once in Dallas. Does that count? Ethan almost choked on his wine. Camila froze mid-bite before regaining her smile. Well, she said, I suppose travel is relative. I nodded eagerly. Oh yes, the traffic in Dallas was definitely a journey. Across the table, Patricia laughed softly, clearly trying to diffuse the tension. So, Clara, she said kindly, what kind of office do you work in? Oh, just a regular one, I said. You know, computers, coffee machines, people pretending they're busy. I mostly help with little things, schedules, budgets, reports. Camila tilted her head. Budgets? That sounds complicated. Oh, not really, I said, deliberately humble. Numbers just kind of make sense to me. I've always loved organizing things, big or small. It's nice when people trust you with important details, even if they don't always realize how much depends on them. It was subtle, but Camilla's eyes narrowed, the first flicker of suspicion. I could almost see the gears turning behind that flawless face, but she still wasn't ready to question her own assumptions. As dinner went on, she continued her little performance. Every anecdote about luxury and culture was meant to reinforce her status. Every polite smile toward me carried the faintest undertone of superiority. But the longer the evening stretched, the more cracks I saw. Her laughter was too loud, her compliments too forced. The perfection she wore like armor was already beginning to slip. When dessert was served, some intricate pistachio pastry she'd brought from Istanbul, I leaned back, resting my chin in my hand. Camila, can I ask you something? Of course, she said, her tone generous, expectant. You've traveled so much, met so many people, seen all these incredible things, I began, my voice light but steady. Does any of it actually make you happy? For the first time all night, she didn't have a ready answer. The pause that followed was almost imperceptible, but I caught it, the tiniest crack in the facade. Of course it does, she said finally, too quickly. Why wouldn't it? I smiled softly, just wondering. And that was when I saw it, the faintest flicker of unease behind her perfect smile. She had no idea that this dinner, the one she thought she was dominating, had only just begun to turn against her. The air in the room felt thicker after that question, as though the glossy polish of the evening had begun to peel away. Camila forced another laugh, quick and brittle, like glass under pressure. You ask the strangest things, Clara, she said, reaching for her wine. Of course I'm happy. My husband and I have everything we've ever wanted. Success, travel, recognition. What else could possibly matter? I smiled faintly, swirling my glass. Oh, I don't know. Maybe peace of mind. Or knowing the people around you actually like you for who you are, not what you can buy. Her hand paused midair. The wine glass trembled just slightly before she steadied it. Well, she said a little too sharply, not everyone measures happiness the same way. Some of us aspire to more than mediocrity. Ethan shifted in his chair. Camila, he murmured in quiet warning, but she ignored him. I leaned forward slightly, my voice gentle but laced with something sharper beneath. Mediocrity is such a funny word, isn't it? It usually means someone's doing fine without needing anyone's approval. Camilla's eyes narrowed. Oh, I read things sometimes, I said lightly. Mostly cereal boxes and company reports. They both tell you who's selling nonsense and who's being honest. Patricia coughed, clearly uncomfortable, while Ethan looked at me like he wasn't sure if he should laugh or duck for cover. But I wasn't done. Not yet. Clara, Camila said, sitting a little straighter, you seem to enjoy teasing me. I shook my head, my tone soft and measured. Not teasing, just trying to understand. You've spent the evening talking about hotels, art, handbags, success, but not once have you mentioned something that actually means anything. Her lips parted, outrage flashing across her face, but I didn't give her time to reply. You say sacrifice builds happiness, that working yourself to the bone is the key to a better life. But you don't look happy, Camila. You look exhausted. Her eyes darted toward Ethan, as if searching for backup, but he stayed quiet. I could almost hear her internal gears turning, trying to spin control back in her favor. I don't think you understand what it takes to build a life like mine, she said finally, her tone brittle. Success doesn't just happen. It's earned, fought for. Oh, I know, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Believe me, I do. The room went still. She blinked, uncertain, maybe even unnerved by the sudden gravity in my tone. I've fought for everything I have, I continued, slowly setting my wine glass down. The difference is I didn't need to pretend to be smaller than I am to make other people feel big, or lie about who I am to impress anyone. Ethan's fork clinked against his plate. Camilla's posture stiffened, her mask cracking. What's that supposed to mean? I met her gaze head-on, the faintest smile on my lips. It means I'm not exactly who you think I am. Her brow furrowed. Excuse me. I turned to Ethan, who looked as though he'd rather sink through the floor. You didn't tell her, did you? He swallowed hard. Clara. I looked back at Camila. Your brother told you I work in an office, right? That I fetch coffee and answer phones? Camila nodded slowly, suspicious. That's what he said, yes. I leaned back in my chair, calm and unhurried. Well, that's true. I do work in an office. I just happen to be the director of strategic growth at Vexel Tech. You might have heard of it. We recently acquired the Austin branch of Nova Systems. I was the lead negotiator on the deal. Her face went blank. She blinked, then laughed once, a short, disbelieving sound. You're joking, I smiled. I'm really not. The silence that followed was delicious. Camila stared, completely caught off guard, her practiced elegance slipping like a mask too heavy to hold. Patricia's mouth fell open. Ethan rubbed his temples, whispering, "Oh God," under his breath. You're the director? Camila managed. Director of Strategic Growth, I corrected pleasantly. I manage a multi-million-dollar portfolio, lead a team of analysts, and handle mergers. I've been in Forbes Austin's top 30 under 30 for 2 years now. I tilted my head slightly. But don't worry, I still make a mean pot of coffee. Her lips parted again, but no sound came out. She looked at Ethan, betrayed. You didn't tell me, he sighed. I just wanted to avoid drama. Drama? I said, my tone still calm but carrying an edge. You mean your sister's insecurity? Excuse me? Camila snapped, her face flushing for the first time. I smiled faintly. You heard me. You walk into every room acting like success is measured in designer labels and hotel investments. But the truth is, you're terrified of anyone outshining you. That's why your brother lied. Not to protect me, but to protect you. The room fell utterly silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. Camilla's jaw tightened, her fingers trembling as she set her glass down. You think you know me, she said quietly. I don't need to know you, I replied evenly. You told me everything I needed to within the first 5 minutes. Patricia shifted uneasily, but I didn't break eye contact. I wasn't angry anymore, just clear, painfully clear. You said earlier that how you present yourself determines how the world treats you, I said softly. Maybe that's true. But sometimes people are so busy performing that they forget to actually live. You've built a brand, Camila, not a life, and you mistake admiration for respect. Ethan spoke then, his voice quiet. Clara, maybe we should... I shook my head gently. No, it's fine. Then I looked back at Camila, whose once perfect posture had wilted ever so slightly. Her eyes flickered with something raw. Anger, shame, maybe even confusion. You wanted to feel superior tonight, I said softly. But you don't need to worry. I won't steal that from you. You can keep pretending if it makes you feel better. I stood smoothing my jeans, the irony of the outfit not lost on me. Thank you for dinner. The food was wonderful. Patricia opened her mouth as if to speak, but I was already walking toward the door. Ethan followed, silent and pale. As I reached the threshold, I turned back once more. For what it's worth, I said, my voice low but steady. I actually meant what I said earlier. I hope you find something that makes you happy one day, something real. And with that, I walked out. The car ride home was silent for the first 10 minutes. The city lights blurred past us, painting streaks of gold and blue across the windshield. Ethan finally spoke, his voice thick. You didn't have to do that. I smiled faintly, still watching the road ahead. Maybe not, but someone had to. He sighed deeply, running a hand through his hair. She's going to call me tomorrow. She'll never forgive me. Maybe that's a good thing, I said softly. Maybe she'll start asking herself why. When we got home, I stood by the window again, looking out over the glowing skyline. Somewhere between the glass towers and the hum of the city below, I felt something shift inside me. It wasn't triumph. It was peace. For years, I'd believed that being quiet, being agreeable, being smaller was the way to keep love. But that night proved something different. The moment you stop apologizing for your light, you see who was only standing next to you because you kept it dim. The next morning, as I packed my laptop bag, the sleek leather one, not the frayed tote, I caught my reflection in the mirror. My hair was smooth again, my blazer pressed. The woman looking back at me wasn't pretending anymore. I smiled faintly and whispered to myself, "Perfect."